Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. My name is Cordam and I'm gonna start a new series featuring one of my most favorite games, if not the absolute favorite, which is Baldur's Gate. And I'm also including Baldur's Gate 2 in the mix as well. So they both count as my favorite game overall. I'm a big fan of classic RPGs, and for me, there's just no beating Baldur's Gate. These are games I played, I don't even remember how many years ago, before any enhanced editions came out. I loved the games thoroughly, even though I didn't understand some of the things that were happening. I was still a kid. But yeah, I played them over the years. I've loved them ever since I started playing them. And when the enhanced editions came out, I also gave them a try. Started modding the game, which is something I hadn't done previously. And in fact, the playthrough I intend on doing here in the channel is also a modded playthrough. So it's gonna be a modded version of Baldur's Gate. There are no differences to the rule sets. There's no difference to 99% of the story. I do have the Ascension mod installed, which changes things in Throne of Ball, but that's very, very late game. And by the way, if you don't know the mods I'm talking about, I'll link them in the description with a description of what they do and where you can get them if you're interested. But it's pretty much using Sword Coast stratagems, which is something to modify the AI of your opponents to make things more interesting. And I'm also using advanced tweaks, and all of these mods you can find in the Gibberlings 3 website. I'll put the links in the description below. So there are no major changes to the story. There's no changes to the rule sets. The game will be as it was always intended to be. However, you do have some quality of life, which you'll notice. And just as an example, in my game, I'll be able to stack ammo up to 120 instead of the default 20 max size. And there's lots of different quality of life improvements here and there. You'll notice them as I play the game. And the biggest difference overall is gonna be from the mod Sword Coast Stratagems, which in my opinion enhances the combat of the game. It makes your enemies smarter. They'll choose their targets more efficiently, and they are more effective in what they choose. They will try to kill your squishies, especially your mages, your low armor targets, instead of just blindly focusing the tank or the nearest target. And there's also a big difference, and the major difference is also going to be regarding spellcasters. So wizards, sorcerers, priests, druids, all the classes that are able to cast spells are gonna do it insanely better. And they're also gonna pre-buff before fights. So if you take, for those of you who've played the game, when you're gonna face a strong opponent, let's say a dragon, something that you might do is before fighting the dragon, you're gonna pre-buff your party. So you're gonna place haste in all your members, you're gonna put protection from fire in your members, you're gonna cast mirror image in your mages, iron skin in your druid, all that stuff that you do before a fight, now the enemy is also gonna do when they face you. So it makes things more interesting in my perspective. It adds a lot of difficulty to the game, and it just makes things more interesting overall, at least to me. This modded version of the game also includes the spells from Icewind Dale. So there are some spells in the game that you haven't seen before, but they're still part of AD&D, nothing out of the ordinary. And yeah, I'm hoping that we'll have a lot of fun with this game. I know I surely will. And I hope it's also an enjoyable experience for you guys watching. So I have a plan on what I want to do. So we're gonna make a new game. We're gonna pick a male. So the males of the realms can excel in whatever profession they choose, whether wizardry, thievery, or the arts of war. Our appearance, I'm not gonna show it just yet, just not to spoil. So we're gonna be a male. we are going to be human. So this is purely a flavor decision. It's fitting for what I want to do, because just so you guys know, my pure preference is always the tiny races. So dwarves, halflings and gnomes for me are the absolute best and funnest races you can play in Baldur's Gate, and pretty much any fantasy RPG. I just like their look. But in this case we're going human. Humans are the predominant race in Faerun. Humans rule most of the significant empires and kingdoms in the realms. They are the most social and tolerant of races, excepting perhaps the halflings. Humans may advance as any class, and are also the only race that can dual class. Humans may not multiclass. So, not gonna go right now into too much detail of what a dual class or a multi-class is, because for this playthrough we're gonna choose a pure class character. So yeah, but if you guys want someone more versatile, these are choices you can take for your own characters. So we're gonna be a human. Our class is gonna be a sorcerer, and sorcerers are practitioners of magic who were born with the innate ability to cast spells. It is thought that the blood of some powerful creature flows through their veins. Perhaps they are the spawn of the gods themselves, or even dragons walking in humanoid form. Regardless, the sorcerer's magic is intuitive rather than logical. They know fewer spells than mages and acquire spells more slowly, but they can cast spells more often and have no need to select and prepare spells ahead of time. Sorcerers cannot specialize in magic the way mages do. Other than these differences, a sorcerer is very similar to a mage. And in this case, the class features are: our sorcerer may not wear any armor, he may only use the following weapons, so a dagger, a quarterstaff, a dart and a sling. He may only become proficient one single slot in any weapon class, we'll see this in a bit. He may not place any slots in any fighting style. He may cast arcane spells, obviously. He may not scribe spells into their spellbooks as mages do. Instead, sorcerers learn a small number of spells at each level, which they can cast daily without memorization. Hit die, d4. So the hit die is simply to say how much HP your character is gonna have. It's gonna be based on, and it's gonna be based in this case in the roll of a d4 dice. So all of Dungeons and Dragons is pretty much tied to the rolls of dice. Several kinds of dice, but everything behind the scenes, in this case it's a computer simulating dice, but everything is pretty much a dice roll. And as it says here, and this is something that I myself, it wasn't too clear to me when I was choosing between classes, the differences between a sorcerer and a mage. So the lore reason is that sorcerers are born with the innate ability to cast spells, while a mage can be born a simple commoner. He has no special blood, nothing of the sort. Simply, he's gonna study a lot, and by studying a lot, he's gonna learn about magic and he's gonna learn how to cast spells. And the difference in practicality is that the sorcerer gains new spells when he levels up, so you can choose from a long list of spells which spells you wanna learn, let's say, while a mage can always learn new spells from reading scrolls. So, in a more summarized version, you could say that a sorcerer is a more potent spellcaster, but his selection of spells is much shorter, so he's also less versatile. And the mage is gonna have to do more careful planning, because mages need to prepare, what does it say? Yeah, they need to memorize which spells they want to take when they rest, while a sorcerer always has them available. The thing is, the mage, since the mage can learn from reading scrolls, he's gonna have a much wider selection of spells to choose from, meaning he's gonna be much more versatile, he can adapt better to different situations, while a sorcerer is kinda locked in a certain style. Okay? But yeah, in this case we're gonna go for a sorcerer. Done. So, sorcerers have kits, and a lot of other classes also have kits. So the default sorcerer is what I just read, but we could also choose the Dragon Disciple. And the Dragon Disciple is... Dragon Disciples are powerful sorcerers with dragon's blood somewhere in their lineage. Their natural magic talents bring out their draconic heritage, allowing them to cast powerful magical spells and exhibit dragon-like abilities. So, advantages. At first level, he has a +1 bonus to AC, so this is the armor class of our character, so he's gonna be tougher. And at third level, he may use a breath weapon once per day. So in this case, he has the breath weapon. The Dragon Disciple breathes a gout of flame up to 30 feet long, inflicting 3d8, so 3 dice, 3 8-sided dice. So you sum up the value and that's the amount of damage you deal. So inflicting 3d8 points of fire damage on all creatures caught within the 140-degree cone. So a nice ability to have. And then there's a bunch of stuff. I'm not gonna go into every single detail, but at pretty much every level he gains some sort of bonus. So innate fire resistance, more armor class and constitution, and all that stuff. In this case, I'm gonna go for a pure sorcerer. And by the way, the disadvantage is that the Dragon Disciple may cast 1 fewer spell per level per day. This is usually irrelevant if you're just trying to choose the best possible... if you're trying to min-max, pretty much. So this is the stronger choice, in my opinion, stat-wise. But flavor-wise, I'm just gonna go for a simple sorcerer. Now, our alignment, and this is something that, bear with me and forgive me, those of you which pay a lot of attention to alignment in role-playing. I'm gonna pick neutral evil, but I'm not gonna be like a pure evil person, like murdering every innocent person and robbing their riches and all that stuff. This is pretty much just gonna be my default alignment, and then I'll do stuff as I don't know, as I feel like it at the time. So even more fitting would be chaotic. So yeah, we're gonna be chaotic evil. And our abilities, and this is the part that those of you who've played the game is troublesome. So pretty much, you wanna roll until you have a high enough roll. So I'm just gonna play a bit. I don't even think I need to roll anymore, but yeah, you can roll, and the abilities you are able to distribute, they are not a set amount of points. So nowadays, if you were to play, say, Baldur's Gate 3, you have a certain amount of points to distribute, and it's default, it's the same for every class, it's all the same thing. In these older games, in this case Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2, you can actually start rolling to see how high you can get. So you could spend hours here trying to get, say, a 95 to be all capped in all the stuff, but in my case I already got an 89, which is a very high value, so let's see what we can do with this. So, wisdom, something we do not need all that much. Constitution, I'm gonna leave it at 16. Dexterity, I want the max. I'll explain why each of them in a bit, but for now I'm just trying to see where I can go with this. So I want to be... I think something like this. Okay, so now my reasoning for these abilities. So, strength, I'm gonna read them all out for those of you who don't know it, so you'll also get a better understanding. So strength measures a character's muscle, endurance, and stamina. It is the prime requisite of fighters. So this is something that affects your ability to hit your enemies, and also how much damage you're gonna deal to your enemies, basically with all melee weapons. Okay? So since our sorcerer is not gonna be hitting stuff with a stick or a staff, I don't need this at all. I could do something like... Okay, this is way too low, but I could dump this stat a lot. It wouldn't really bother my gameplay. The thing is, strength also affects your carrying capability, and having someone with a very low strength is kind of annoying when you're trying to deal with your inventory and you're always becoming overburdened, and that's not fun. So 12 is a nice medium. So as for dexterity, dexterity measures a character's hand-eye coordination, agility, reflexes, and balance. It is the prime requisite of the thief. So in practical terms, what this means for us is that the more dexterity you have, the harder it is for enemies to hit you. So every character starts with the default armor class, and for every 2 points of dexterity you have, you gain an extra point in armor class. So obviously, if I had 10, I would have the default armor class. If I went into the negatives, I would have negative armor class. I'm not gonna... negative may confuse you guys in a bit, but for now, you get the picture. So you would have a lower armor class, which would make you more susceptible to be hit, sorry. And like this, I have 4 extra points of armor class. Okay, so I don't want to get hit, so this is a nice stat to have. Constitution. This measures a character's fitness, health, and physical resistance to hardship, injury, and disease. This ability is important to the ranger. In this case, for the sorcerer, what this means is how much HP he's gonna get per level. Okay, so if I remember correctly, I don't think spellcasters gain any benefit from Constitution above 16, so I'm just gonna leave it at 16. As for intelligence, now my character, first of all, let's read. So intelligence measures a character's memory, reasoning, and learning ability. It is the prime requisite of the mage. Note, a character with an intelligence score of 8 or less is illiterate and cannot use scrolls or most wands regardless of his class. So this is very important for gameplay wise. So, what does a sorcerer need intelligence for? And the answer is nothing. So, obviously, this is important, okay? So I would never go below 8, or in this case below 9, because 8 or less is illiterate. But intelligence does nothing for the ability of a sorcerer's spellcasting. Okay, so this is irrelevant. I'm having trouble pronouncing some words. The reason why I want to have some points here is because there are some enemies in the game, and I will not spoil it for those of you who haven't seen the game, but for some enemies in the game, it's important that your character is somewhat intelligent, okay? And I'll speak more about it when we get there. Wisdom. Wisdom measures a character's enlightenment, judgment, and common sense. It is the prime requisite of priests. So again, wisdom is a stat that, for a sorcerer, it doesn't really matter. It also doesn't really matter for a mage. The only thing that wisdom affects in mages, I'm not sure if it does in sorcerers, it probably does, is a spell called Wish. So there's a spell in the game that the higher your wisdom is, the better results you are able to choose from. Okay, so in this case, I'm not gonna bother with even taking Wish, so I don't really care about my wisdom score, so I'm just gonna leave it at 10. And as for charisma. Charisma measures a character's persuasiveness, personal magnetism, and the ability to lead. This ability is important to the druid, bard, and paladin. Now, for those of you familiar with more recent Dungeons and Dragons, you would know that charisma is very important for sorcerers. This is their primary stat, it affects their ability to cast spells. In Baldur's Gate, this wasn't really implemented. So charisma, for a spellcasting ability of the sorcerer, is irrelevant. Okay, you don't need charisma at all to be the most powerful sorcerer ever. However, charisma does affect the reaction you get from other people. So NPCs, companions, shopkeepers, the prices you can get, the reactions you get from people, your ability to persuade people, it's all tied to your charisma score. So since we don't really need anything aside from dexterity being useful and constitution for extra HP, I'm just gonna go for the maximum charisma, and we're gonna be extremely handsome, very nice smelling, beautiful sorcerers. So yeah, we're gonna go with this ability score. I hope I gave a nice idea of what I wanted to do. So yeah, this is our ability score. With a nice roll of 89. I'm very pleased with this. So what else have we got? So for skills, in my case, I'm not gonna be fighting people up close. Maybe later for some particular reason, but for the start I'm just gonna go with a sling. Okay, this is a nice weapon to be proficient in a spellcaster. So the sling, although it is commonly thought of as a toy weapon, its lethality should not be underestimated. A strong bullet thrown from a sling by an experienced user can tear a hole through a man's skull. This is correct. So hopefully we can hurt some people with our sling. But, I mean, physical damage is not going to be our primary source of damage. Now, this is an important time. And why is this important? Because with the sorcerer, like we saw before, he has an innate ability to learn spells. However, he cannot choose as many as he wants. So you have a small set of spells, or rather, you have a large set of spells to choose from. So you can see there's a lot. But you will not be able to choose a lot of them from each level. I don't actually remember how many spells of each level you can get. I think it's 5, maybe 4. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on this, but you have a small pool of spells you can actually take. So one of the things you could do, or let's say one of the spells that is most useful in Baldur's Gate early on, is a sleep spell. And why? Because this spell can pretty much put an entire screen of low-level enemies to sleep, making them basically a free kill. Okay, so it's extremely useful spell. The thing is, it's a spell that, while it's very useful in the start of the game, it's not all that useful late game. So for a mage, this is a very nice spell to get, but for a sorcerer, since you can only get so many spells and you'll have to use them for the rest of the game, I usually like taking something that is always gonna be useful. So one of the spells I like the most, and it's useful the entire game, is blindness. So what does blindness do? It's a level 1 spell, it has a range of 40 feet, so it's long range. It has a duration of 2 hours, and if we're thinking about using blindness during a fight, which is usually what we're gonna do, this duration pretty much says that that person is out of the fight. Okay, so it's removed. The casting time is 2, this ranges from 1 to 10, so it's a very fast cast. The area of effect is 1 creature, so you affect only 1 creature. And it has a saving throw. Now, what does it do? This first level spell temporarily blinds its target. So this temporarily, since it's 2 hours, it's pretty much always. A saving throw is allowed, and, if successful, there are no harmful effects. If a victim is blinded, he receives a -4 penalty to his attack rolls and armor class. And what this also means is if you blind, let's say a warrior during a fight, and he doesn't have anyone in his close vicinity, he isn't even gonna try to fight anyone because he cannot see anyone. So this is a very, very nice spell to land on someone, especially fighters. And the other spell I want to take, at least for the start, Chromatic Orb is also a cool spell, but I don't use it that often. So this is a spell that for each level you gain, up until the 12th level, gains new effects. But what I'm gonna take... By the way, if you see me not taking Magic Missile and you know this game, this is one of the most powerful spells you can have, a damage dealing spell. However, this is something that... Let me see if I can find what I want to say. One of the most powerful first level spells creates up to 5 missiles of magical energy that dart forth from the wizard's fingertip and unerringly strike their target, which must be a creature of some sort. So, the most important part here is the unerringly. So when you cast a magic missile and you aim it at someone, it's gonna hit. It's never gonna miss. Okay? This is very important. Now, what does it say? For every 2 extra levels of experience, the wizard gains an additional missile. So he has 2 at 3rd level, 3 at the 5th, 4 at 7th, up to a total of 5 at 9th level. So while this is a very nice spell to have once you get a few levels, at level 1, throwing a missile that does 1d4 plus 1 is not that effective, okay? It does damage, but I mean, not that important. So the spell I'm gonna take here is actually Shield. And Shield is a very important spell, especially if you want to stay alive, which we're gonna try. Because this is an evocation spell, it's level 1, its range is 0, so it affects the caster. It lasts for 1 hour, so a long time. Especially if we're talking for the length of a battle, it's a long time. Its casting time is 1, so it's pretty much an instant cast. And there is no saving throw, because it affects yourself, so you're never gonna fail casting this spell on yourself. When this spell is cast, an invisible barrier comes into being in front of the wizard. It sets the wizard's armor class to 4 against all melee weapons and 2 against missile weapons. Now, I'm gonna stop here for a moment. Why is this important? Because wizards and sorcerers alike, if you remember from the class sheet, it says that they cannot use armor. So you're gonna be pretty much wearing a robe the entire game, which naturally isn't the best defense you can get. So you're always gonna be in a poor armor class value. Now, why am I saying poor instead of low or high? Because in Baldur's Gate, you have to think about this in the opposite way. So, the lower armor class, the lower the value of your armor class is, the harder you are to hit. Okay, so in this case when it says it's 4 against melee weapons and 2 against missile weapons, you're gonna be better protected against missile weapons because your armor class is lower. Okay, so this is a great spell to fix the fact that you cannot wear armor. Now, another very important thing is it also grants the wizard immunity from the spell Magic Missile, which we just saw. The effect lasts for the duration of the spell or until dispelled. So, one of the quickest ways a squishy target has to die, and a wizard or a sorcerer, they are squishy, is to get a barrage of magic missiles to the face. Because they also never miss. So even if you get your armor class to -50, which is impossible by the way in the game, but let's just think of it, magic missiles are always gonna hit you. So this is a very important spell to have, and also it's a useful spell throughout the entire game. So on a sorcerer, it's a nice thing to have. So, enough about the spells. Let's go for our appearance. So in this case, I'm gonna go for a white air wizard, sorcerer, and we're gonna have we're gonna have white skin. So, like this, it's fine. And we're gonna be a dark wizard to complement the fact that we are evil. Where can I find black? I guess this is black. It's not that easy to tell, by the way. I guess this is black. And I'm gonna be... I like a little shade of blue, but... Where can I find... Yeah, it's too black if it's all black. So, something like this is fine. And now, this is where you pick your sound. So, the sound set for your character's voice. Now, for those of you who know the game, you'll see that there's an extra entry here. So usually you would choose from one of these.
Death to you all!
As it should be.
Time for a bit of the rough and tumble.
Get over here!
Which are quite fun, in my opinion. But in this case, our sorcerer is gonna be a rather known person.
I am the Senate.
I can't hold on any longer.
Okay, so yeah, our sorcerer is gonna be our friend Mr. Palpatine. So for those of you who don't know who Palpatine is, well, I can't do much for you. But it's a Star Wars reference and I like the character. Even though I'm not that fan of Star Wars, but I like Palpatine. And I think it's quite fitting for our character. And this is not gonna be his face, by the way, don't worry. So we're gonna accept this. And now, as for the difficulty, we're gonna play on core rules. So this setting is aimed at veteran players who are well versed in AD&D mechanics. Enemies deal full damage and employ advanced combat tactics. Slightly stronger enemy types appear, and enemy groups are more varied. So, if you would go down in the difficulty, so into the higher difficulties, so hard and insane, for now let's forget about this one. What these difficulties do is simply the enemies deal more damage, okay? So in hard they deal 50% more damage, and in insane they deal 100% more damage. I like using core rules because this is how the game was designed. Okay, so this is the rules as they are in actual Dungeons and Dragons. So we're gonna venture forth.
Nestled atop the cliffs that rise from the Sword Coast, the citadel of Candlekeep houses the finest and most comprehensive collection of writings on the face of Farron. It is an imposing fortress, kept in strict isolation from the intrigues that occasionally plague the rest of the Forgotten Realms. It is secluded, highly regimented, and it is home. Within these hallowed halls of knowledge, your story begins. You have spent most of your 20 years of life within this keep's austere walls, under the tutelage of the sage Gorion. Acting as your father, he has raised you on 1,000 tales of heroes and monsters, lovers and infidels, battles and tragedies. However, one story was always left untold, that of your true heritage. You have been told that you are an orphan, but your past is largely unknown. Lately, Gorion has been growing distant from you, as if some grave matter weighs heavily on his heart. You have asked about his concerns as gently as possible, but your queries have been in vain. Your sole comfort is the knowledge that he is a wise man, and you know he will tell you when the time is right. Nonetheless, his silence is troubling, and you cannot help but feel that something is terribly wrong. Today, Gorion has appeared more agitated than ever, and now he has uncharacteristically interrupted your chores in the middle of the day, imparting hurried instructions for you to equip yourself for travel. He has handed you what gold he can spare, but given no clue as to why. Nevertheless, you now stand before the Candlekeep Inn, ready to purchase what you need for an unplanned and unexpected journey.
And there you go. So here we have the intro for the game. And we are gonna purchase what we need for an unplanned and unexpected journey. But we're also gonna talk to our foster father, Garayan. Now, first of all, let me fix something here, which is very important. So we're gonna go to our character sheet, and this isn't really what Palpatine looks like. So I'm gonna customize my appearance. Not William Wallace, not Blackadder, Palpatine. Okay. So this is much better. I like it a lot more. And here we have the information about our character. So we're a sorcerer level 1. We have 0 experience, so we're very inexperienced sorcerer. We have some proficiencies. Our base tech 0, so this is the 2-hit armor class 0, and we are at 20, which is terrible. And this is the base one, and our current one is actually 25, because our equipped weapon is our fists, which we are not proficient in. We are very weak in melee combat. Attacks per round, lore, I'm not going to go into too much detail about this. We have our sling proficiency, which is the one we chose. And let me see, I just wanted to show you something else, which was... wait, I gotta remember. Here. So, this is our armor class. So, the base armor class, which I was talking about in the ability score screen, is 10. And since we have 18 dexterity, we have a 4 armor class bonus. And again, you have to think about this the opposite way. So, lower armor class is better. Lower tech 0 is better. Okay? So yeah. Now, also something that I need to do is, let me see if I remember this. Where can I adjust the difficulty? I cannot remember. Where was it? I honestly don't remember. I'll have to check it. So not here, not here. Story modes. Yeah, I actually, I'll have to check. I don't remember what it is. Because not only do we choose the difficulty in the, when we're creating our character, when we're starting our new game, the mod Sword Coast Stratagem also has its own difficulty settings, which I want to apply. So I'm gonna save the game. And can I name it here? No, save. So we're gonna be Palpatine 1. And I'm gonna end the episode here with a quick save. I cannot. In front of the Candlekeep Inn. And we are currently in Candlekeep, which is this beautiful place. Aha, there we are. So this is Candlekeep. So yeah. The ability to zoom in, I think, is also one of the best things about the Enhanced Edition. But yeah. So this was pretty much... Shh, I'm talking. An introductory episode. So just going through what I intend on doing with the game, the fact that the game is modded, and I'm gonna leave in the description the mods I'm using, character creation, and the intro screen. I also wanted to change the difficulty settings here, but I'm silly and I don't remember what it is. I'll have to check it out. So yeah, in the next episode we're actually gonna start playing the game, exploring Candlekeep, talking to Garayan, purchasing supplies, all that good stuff. And I hope you guys join me for the next one. So as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys liked this introductory episode. I know there wasn't any gameplay, it's just explaining why and how I created my character. If you guys have any thoughts about the game, I'm sure a lot of you watching have already played Baldur's Gate, but for those who haven't, if you have any questions about the game, the characters, the classes, anything at all you don't understand, like armor class and the to-hit ability, anything at all, feel free to leave a question in the comments below. And if you guys want to get notified about the rest of the series, about new videos being uploaded, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And I hope to see you all in the next episode. Until then, stay safe everyone.